Time you see us, we'll be live.
After all. Hey, everybody. Welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 240. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, along with Johnny V. It's a small world, after all, Johnny, as I'm here at Walt Disney World in Florida, outside of Orlando, or in Orlando.
Look at you,
Kissing
baller,
me.
just rolling into Disney World in some resort.
Yeah. Like, you want to know just how fancy and high class we are? We've got our own Mickey Mouse homemade pillowcases, thanks to the aunt that actually put us up in the condo for the whole week. So I don't know if that's full scale balling just yet. When
You're getting there.
We're getting there, but nonetheless, like all the support we get out on the tour, every little bit helps, and what an awesome experience for my 8 and 10-year-old. I mean, 9 and 8-year-old that are here.
I take it there's some sort of benefit to your child being under 10.
There might be. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't look into that, but nonetheless, we are here, and for once, I'm going to take full blame. This show started a couple minutes late, 100% because of me. I just wrapped up final round coverage and commentary, I should say, with Big Jeremy Colling, for the Throwdown the Mountain. So I finally was able to get that edited, got that all put together, and then Big Germ spent most of his night working through technical issues with me so that he could do remote commentary. And we literally ended at like 2 minutes before show was supposed to go on. So thank you to Big Germ, and thank you to everyone for sticking around and for joining us here tonight as well. Still making it happen.
All right, hold on, Terry. Fill some time for just a few seconds. Let him know about Disney. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. Well, Johnny's going to probably go plug in some stuff. I, along with not being ready to go entirely and getting the shot set up and everything else we needed to do tonight, I was just actually handed a couple pieces of pizza, which I haven't had a chance to dig into. Excuse me, although it looks delicious. Also, I'm going to just start right away with the first and foremost. I want to thank Dwayne Reeder, who graciously hosted me this weekend while I was down in Florida at the Throwdown the Mountain. I've been there a number of times. It was a lot of fun. Got to play a little bit, learned a new game or two, in which I never won at any point, but got to play a game called Quicks. So we'll get to that maybe in the after show if we have one. It was a lot of fun. I was also there with Paul and Hannah and Simon Lizotte. And while I'm throwing around shout outs, I want to thank Simon Lizotte because Simon did commentary on round 1 and round 2 video, and Simon also did commentary with Jomez on rounds 1, 2, and 3. So he was more than doing double time this weekend. At one point between Saturday morning and Sunday morning with me, he had done 4 rounds of commentary in a 24-hour period. So MVP for sure. Simon Lizotte working with me to do that. Someone dubbed it Simon Terry. I don't know if that works or not. But anyway, thank you to those guys. Awesome weekend. Thank you to Mike Barnett. Thank you to Sun King, all the other spotters, volunteers, helpers, Sun King employees, or otherwise. It was awesome being at this event again. And, of course, Jomez out there killing it, doing what they do with the the 3 rounds of lead card coverage as well, or feature and then lead card after that. So. Yeah, Johnny, I was just sending a few shout outs, few thanks and gratitude. And then, as I said, aunt and uncle here who also gifted us and our family and another family with our lodging accommodations here at Disney World. So we took in Magic Kingdom yesterday. I didn't touch any editing. We took in Magic Kingdom. Today was a relaxation day. as you can imagine how much of that I did. And then tomorrow might be the Hollywood Studios, Universal Studios, and then I think Animal Kingdom to round out Wednesday and Thursday for those two. So, all right. Anyway, we can get back to golf. No Dynamite tonight. Is that what I've been instructed, Johnny?
Yes, I heard from Dana that he said he's just out tonight. Not exactly sure why, but ultimately he's not able to join us tonight. So we'll be doing a little bit of our own PDGA wrap-ups.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you do that. I'd like to get on the chat board, get a few things figured out on my end because I'm a little behind at the moment. So outside of Throw Down the Mountain, which I'll expand upon in a few minutes, go ahead and give us some other results and details from around the country. I know some big action was going on in Texas. You going to start there?
I'm not. I'm going to start on the West Coast, actually. I'm going to start with California at Orangevale, with the St. Patrick's Classic presented by Innova. That was another one of our A tiers. This was kind of a week where we see the tour spread out. We see players kind of hit a bunch of different spots, some in Florida, some in California, some Texas. I mean, we have people all over this weekend. So we saw 77 open players here at the St. Patrick Classic, presented by Innova. Winning this weekend, no surprise, in his home state, Josh Anthon, taking down the field by 4 strokes over Dustin Keegan, who's been performing very well. Dustin always seems to perform really well in this early West Coast swing in general. He's just a really strong player, it feels like, out on the West Coast. Must be a hometown thing for him, or at least a home side of the country. But Josh ends up shooting a 34 under par, going 1048, 1041, 1051, beating Dustin by 4, and then Cameron Messerschmidt was 2 strokes behind Dustin, with MVP zone Sias Elmore tied with 3rd at -28, James Proctor at 27, Nico Lacastro and Kyle Webster tied at 25, Clint Calvin at 24, Peter McBride at 23, rounding out the top 10, Thomas Tomaselli at 22. So congratulations to all those people. Josh Anthon taking home $1,407.
All right. What did the FPO field look like over there, Johnny?
It looked pretty good. We had 9 open women. Winning this one is a name we don't hear from very often. Camille Squire, Skweir. So Camille, who is PDGA number 57791, rated 884. So taking down Christy King, who's rated 931, a full 50 points better than her. Camille ends up shooting, I clicked the wrong button there. Camille shoots a 925, 917, and a 949 to finish out for $572. So Camille ends up shooting all 3 rounds well over her rating. Congratulations, Camille. Christy King was 7 strokes behind her, shooting 905, 930, and 888. So 3rd place was Amanda Zacone. 4th place, the classic, the Hall of Famer, I believe, Annie Kreml.
Annie Kreml, that was going to be my guess. Yep. Okay. Good call.
Classic and Hall of Famer is a nice way to say someone who's playing in a division where she could easily be playing a few spots down, a few divisions in a different sort of field. And then finally in 5th place, Jenny Umstead. So congratulations to all of our winners. Just a solid field. I think we're seeing more and more FPO fields that are starting to thicken up, we'll say. Kind of get a general, more than the traditional. I think when we were younger, we would see more the open women's fields around 4 to 5, and now we're seeing double that, like 10, 12, 15, and a lot of these A tiers.
Yeah, and hopefully that continues to grow. And I think about, obviously, you get to some of the pro tour and the national tours, and we're seeing even bigger 30, 40 women at some of those events. And this weekend, when I think about Florida, I know there were 9 women at the Florida tournament here at Throw Down the Mountain. I believe there are 11 possibly signed up for, I might be a couple weeks ahead for Tallahassee or Jacksonville, one of the 2 that are coming up. We'd love to see those, double and triple still. There's still plenty of room, plenty of opportunity, and I think it'd be great to see even larger fields than what we're having. Obviously, it's a step in the right direction, but it would be great if somehow we could sustain the numbers that we see at the NTs and at the Pro Tours. But Nonetheless, great to see. Couple of big hugs I want to give from some of the mentions you just had. Christy King, I saw her post on Facebook that she may have cut off part of her fingertip like today. She said it was on her left hand, though. So there.
I don't care what hand it's on.
Is that a pro move or an am move?
It depends what you're doing on how you cut that off.
Okay, and I'm not trying to make light of it, but big hug to you, Christy, as you had just mentioned. She took second. And another big hug, Amanda Anthon, Josh Anthon's wife. They lost someone very close to them this weekend as well, and I saw a post or two. So I know Josh and Amanda and the family were dealing all of that in among, the competitive spirit this weekend. So huge hug goes out to them for their loss this weekend. So sorry to hear and read about that. And I know Dustin Keegan, even in his post, said, he couldn't keep up with Josh's stellar play. And he had a lot of high praise and accolades for the way, Josh was able to maintain not only his competitive spirit, but also the professional spirit that he brings to the game. So a very classy post as well by Dustin Keegan, who was our runner-up. So great to see.
Let's move a little bit further east. We're going to go to Discraft Presents the Open at Belton. I reached out to the winner of this event, one Paul Ulibarri, spoiler, to see if he wanted to join us on the show tonight, and I've not heard back from him. Sometimes Uli, him being on the road, he'll just pop in sometimes at like 10 o'clock and just ask, hey, you guys need me? So I'm hoping if we don't get through this, if we do hear from him sometime soon. So
I'll say real quick, I'm in Dion Arlyn, Discraft's finest looking gentleman, so he said, is on the board, and he said that he might be ready in about 30 to 45 minutes. So if things get cut short with me, I'm okay with that tonight. I've got two deep dish pizza slices staring at me, and my kids in another room. So Dion may be a perfect. What happens when he's a substitute, but he's a better fit than I am? I don't know. He the perfect replacement.
Okay. We
so we could have Dion step in when he's a little available a little later. But continue on with Texas action.
You definitely can. Once again, Belton, Texas. This is a course we haven't really seen a lot of. I did some searching today on YouTube. There's really no videos of it out there that I could find for anything out of Belton, Texas. So I have no clue what this course is like. But what I do know is that Paul Ulibarri likes it. He wins by one stroke, shooting 1063, 1044, and 1046 rated rounds, beating out Reed Fiscura by a single stick, as Dana likes to say. Followed up at 32 under is Joel Freeman. James Conrad, 31 under par. Austin Hannum, 27 under. Double G, 26. Kevin Jones, tied with Garrett, Emerson Keith, and G.T. Hancock at 8, and running out the top 10. Surprise to me, someone we haven't heard a lot about in the last, 6 or 8 months, Bradley Williams. Bradley has been kind of one of those guys down in Texas who's just, you think of him as an unstoppable force, and as we see a lot more of these players kind of spread out this week, a lot of these top-tier guys, not that Bradley's not one of them, but a lot of them are kind of knocking him down the ladder, so to speak, a little bit. So it seems like Bradley has been a little bit off the beaten path. We haven't heard a lot from him. Terry, have you heard anything about Bradley recently?
No, I saw him make a post a couple of weeks ago talking about not being out there or as active. I'm not sure if he's faced any injuries or not lately, but you're right. We have missed him at any of the really big time events. Now, I don't know that we'd normally see him out at like a winter time, or if we typically see him at, a Memorial or a Vegas, but to not have him in the mix of those has been, like you said, you're just kind of off the radar. If you're not at those events, you're certainly not doing a lot that we're talking about, because those are where everyone's at. So hopefully maybe this is the start. And I don't have the PDGA up in front of me. Maybe there's it is listed. I'm sure he's going to be very active in Texas over the next few weekends.
He definitely is. So far, he's got 3 events under his belt, 2 of which are wins: the Sugarland Showdown 8, and one of my favorite named events, Bill and Ted's Awesome Disc Golf Adventures, presented BATADGA Tour Stop number 2, driven by Innova Champion Discs. He won both of those, and he took 6th place at the Victoria Open, and he's signed up for Texas States and the Nick Hyde.
Okay, well, and our 2012 world champion Sarah Holcomb is on the board, and she says that Bradley is injured.
Oh,
frown face.
That's too bad.
Sad face.
Yeah, that's too bad. Hopefully he can heal up and start doing what Bradley likes to do, which is dominate Texas and, in general, that particular South area. And I'd love to see him travel more, because he's one of those talents that when you get him on tour, he's a wild card. You don't know how he's going to finish. He could be a top 5 player, he could be a top 10 player, but rarely below that.
Yeah, and I'm guessing it has something to do with his back, and maybe Sarah can or can't chime in with more, but I'm guessing, I feel like lower back has been something that has plagued him, but maybe not. All right.
That was the
so that's
open,
what we saw in the,
yeah, that was the Open men. We're going to wander down a little bit down here to the Open women. There were 12 women in this field, taking the field by handily continuing her her well done playing streak is Katrina Allen. So Katrina shoots 10 under par, besting the field by 11 strokes. The next closest to her was Jessica Weiss at 1 over par. Katrina Allen started out with a 1023 rated round, followed that up by a 980, and then she kind of coasted in with her 956. Just playing so well lately, dominating all over. She can't be stopped right now. Like I said, Jessica Weiss shot a 1 over with a 941, 964, 964. So those are no slouch ratings, 2 of which are over her high rating. Lisa Fakis. Terry, you're going to help me out here. Valerie Mandahano, thank you. Taking 4th place and rounding out top 5 is Rebecca Cox. So Katrina won $660 for this particular event.
All right, not too bad for her showing, and you touched on it. She obviously has been playing some pretty good golf lately, and some of that I feel is, I don't know if self-contagious is the word, or just maybe reaffirming that when you're out there, you're playing well, that confidence is built up, and that can easily just spill over into the next weekend. And hopefully that's what we're seeing from Katrina right now, with, removing some of that self-doubt or having some of those obstacles or hurdles. And if that snowballs for you, then like you said, you can very quickly become unstoppable. So it'll be interesting to see as we move into these next few weeks, as more of our women, top women get back together, whether it's a Jonesboro or a Nick Hyde, and they start battling, head to head again. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, we saw last year Paige get on an early year streak, and we all knew that Katrina had it in her. It was just a matter of putting it all together, and if she's found a way to put it all together, the field better look out. Yeah,
for sure. All right. Well, anything else? Well, before you move out of Texas, and I don't know if you were going to or not, but before you do, there's a lot of conversation taking place in Texas, obviously with the Waco event taking place, this weekend's event. The Texas States, I believe, is coming up. I feel like there's quite a few people that are probably signed up and going to be playing in that. The Nick Hyde. So there's kind of this whole like Texas tour, Texas swing is maybe a better way to put it right now. And there's a few that have dispersed to other parts of the country, as we saw a number of players come here to Florida. But Texas is kind of where it's at right now before then it eventually shifts back up into, say, Emporia for the GBO. Is that right?
Correct. We've got a couple events, obviously, over in California. They always have events going on. Like next week, they got the Daniel Bowe Memorial. But next week in Texas, we have the Texas States, as you were saying, Disc Golf Championship. And I believe there's even maybe one more. I'm not going to bother clicking on the next month, but I think there's even one more after that. But I think most of our pros by then will have moved out and on their way over to a Jonesboro.
Yeah. So, and of course, shout out this weekend, Joey Van Duzy and crew running Jacksonville Open. That's taking place. It's a couple hours from where I'm at. And also on the map, and maybe even on my radar, depending on how a few things shake out in the next couple hours, the collegiates are going on. And this year, as opposed to being at the Hippodrome, as we heard from the guys at Foundation, it's taking place over at the IDGC. And so either it's called a change of plans or whatever on my behalf, there's actually actually a chance I may swing up to that as opposed to being in Jacksonville. I know they've got some guys covering the action in Jacksonville. So it's kind of up in the air where I'm going to be in a couple days. But the IDGC, along with the collegiates, is something that's on my radar, something I haven't been able to experience. And IDGC is just an awesome place to be at. So who knows? We'll see where I run into some of you guys this weekend.
Yeah, go out to the PDGA website for those of you that are under a rock, pdga.com. And under the news, Steve Hill wrote an article about the changes at the National Collegiate Disc Golf Championships.
Perfect.
So the new venue and some women's team format updates. So
Okay.
go ahead and take a look at that. And I didn't realize that this is the first time the Collegiates has been going on for 13 years.
You're old.
Yeah, thank you. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's been like 6 years to me for some reason, and it has been going on a long time. It's an event that I really, like you said, we haven't had a chance to get down there or cover it, but I'd love to get down there and actually take a look, because right now collegiate disc golf is really starting to kind of heat up.
Yeah, and I think you're leaving a little behind in saying that. It's been hot for a couple of years. That's
I meant like this time of year, as far as like it's really heating up this time of year with the collegiate, and then now we start hearing more and more about college disc golf from some of the other podcasts that have the time that actually follow that. I know it's been going on for a few weeks, but now we're really getting into the meat and bones of it.
Yeah, meat and bones is what we're getting into. And I think, speaking of the meat and the bones, whatever your saying is, speaking of sayings that are just spot on right now,
that's nailed
I
it.
believe it's disc golf that coined this March Madness thing. That's what you're talking about, right? There's just a lot of talk about disc golf in March and at the college level. That's what they're calling March Madness, right? Is that the meat and the bones of it?
That might be the meat and the bones of it.
All right. Sorry, I'm still in a little bit of jabbing attitude as I had the pleasure of doing my commentary with Big Germ, which was honestly a pleasure a few minutes ago.
I want to hear about you seem like you've had, and we don't have to get into it now, but you had some fun experiences at Disney that seemed to frustrate you a little bit. So I can't wait to get those. Maybe next week we'll get to a nice breakdown of your time.
Yeah, I'll divulge a little more of that. But if you want my, they're almost a coined phrase now. You want my Hannah McBeth hot takes? Check my Twitter. I'm going to try and be more active. I go back to the parks tomorrow. So if you're looking for that inside scoop of how I handle Disney and the experience, go out and follow the Disc Golf Guy on Twitter. One of these days, I'm going to get fully immersed in it. So, all right. Well, we're going to then move over to a few of the details, and I don't have it in front of me, so I'll lean on you a little, even though I think I'm good to go. UDisc Live, UDisc, the great guys over there, Matt and Josh, killing it, of course, this weekend, being part of the Throw Down the Mountain presented by Discraft. Throw Down the Mountain 7, that is. Sun King, DGA, also huge sponsors and supporters. This was an affiliate or test event for the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And Mike Barnett, I think Paul McBeth said it, that you're looking at 3 weekends now. This event just continues to grow and expand, and there's so many people that want to be part of it that he's had to go to 3 separate weekends, like an AM, an advanced, and a pro weekend. And it's private property, and it costs thousands upon thousands of dollars to rent, just to throw that out there as well. But private property in this old quarry, and it's just a famed piece of property here in Florida now, I think throughout the rest of the disc golf community. And
it's too
over
easy.
500 competitors.
It's just too easy. That's what I've heard.
It's just too easy.
I saw someone park hole 18. I saw like some 14s and 13s and 12. I mean, why are these courses even allowed on a tour?
Yeah, that's a good. Why are my legs and my shins on fire still?
The 5.5 or 6 mile walk that you had to take up and down. There, I'm going to put them in quotes, mountains, which are just pretty big hills.
Yeah, well, it's an incredible experience. I'll start off with a little bit of what I saw on the FPO side. Madison Walker, just shot really well. She killed it out there. I did get the final round of their weekend on Sunday. I went out and kind of pulled double duty. Got the morning round on the FPO side, and then got the chase card on the MPO side. And Walker built up herself a nice little cushion. I think it was 10 strokes, and built herself a nice cushion. And she had a few struggles during that final round, but ultimately was able to come out ahead. I think it was this event last year where she was all knotted up with Elaine King at the end of regulation, and ultimately took it down in extra holes. But this time she had a few spare strokes in her pocket still. So she took it down. Hannah McBeth, we saw open with a really, really strong round during her first round. Found herself on the lead card. Unfortunately, she fell off a little bit during that second round.
Suddenly your daughter just wanders.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Hey, have you seen my phone charger?
Your phone charger, I have not seen it. I'm sorry, dear.
It reminded me of that clip from the guy who was doing the news announcement over in England, and his kid comes, and the wife just comes flying in to grab the baby, and I just got a kick out of that. It's one of my favorite clips of all time.
So my rowdy 8-year-old is searching. I'm actually using their room at the moment for my studio. So
I know.
We saw that on the FPO side when it was all said and done. It turned out to be a pretty competitive battle, which ultimately was for second. And coming off, I believe, even the chase card during the second round with a really, really good round was Ellen Widboom.
You're sleeping in here today.
Okay, thank you. Can you pull the door shut, sweetie? Thanks.
Yes, sir. Bye, Felicia.
Bye, Felicia. All right. So Ellen Widboom coming off the second card, solid performance. And then as a total side note to all of this, I know there's a lot of diehard MVP people out there. I was able to capture a little inside scoop from Elaine King, get her some raw footage for In the Bag, and I'm going to share that with the MVP guys. Again, kind of a side note, but if you're waiting on that, just like I did with Sarah Holcomb a few weeks ago, super stoked to grab that footage and pass that on to the MVP guys so they can make it look all fancy and pretty. So on the FPO side, that's what we saw. Pro Masters side, Barry Schultz, Wisconsin native. I think he handily took things down. Some great competition, but he took things down on the MP40 side. And then, well, we all know about what happened on the MPO side.
1082, 1086, 1094. Those are the three rated rounds from one Paul McBeth. He was, I believe, maybe one stroke is what someone said about having the all-time highest average rated round for a tournament. It was like 1 or 2 strokes. I believe I saw that. Forgive me, I think it's out on the internet somewhere, so it could be completely false. But what a performance. That is no easy course, and he was on fire. There's nothing to say about it other than pinpoint.
Yeah, and what I and of course I was fully, immersed in the card that I was covering, and we were checking scores, and then we shared, not too many stories back at the house. Actually, I didn't get too much of it, but to see so much, how to word it. That level of execution on such a demanding course. And I think people don't get the full appreciation for how tough that course is when you watch someone like that play it so well, because you think, oh, well, yeah, the shot's just right there. It's unbelievable how much accuracy, precision, speed, and then even control. When you're looking at some of these greens, a lot of them are on mounds, they're on hillsides. I think back to a few months ago, Paul struggled a little bit, couldn't chase down Kelvin Heimberg on the Monster on the Mountain, played at a very similar layout. And there were a few times where a rollaway would cost you an extra stroke or two. So to have none of that happen, and everything that he did looked like it was either spot on, or he obviously could recover if he ever needed to. Like, it was just incredible. And now I look back after looking, it wasn't until probably about the 14th or 15th hole, I said to the chase card, I'm like, have you guys seen what Paul's doing? And I think Big Germ rolled his eyes. He's like, what? And I'm like, oh, he's like 12 through 13. He's like, Oh, okay, or whatever. And for all these guys that no one was catching Paul really, no matter what. So you can kind of just sit back and admire what he was doing out there. But he missed hole 6. I think if we go to UDisc, he missed hole 6, which maybe he'll argue with me is not one of the easier holes on the course, but I think it is. I think hole 6 is one of the easier twos on the course. It's 375 feet, blind hyzer. And you have to hit it just right, of course. But I think of the other holes out there to get hole 10, which is on this spine, and it's 360 feet, down this narrow tunnel with very little room for air.
It's the fifth easiest. It's the 5th easiest hole on the course, according to UDisc right now.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean,
everybody can have an off throw.
And then, please tell me, hole 16, which he also missed, and I remembered it because of the 6s. That has to be one of the 2nd or 3rd easiest holes, 4th easiest holes on the course.
It goes hole 11 is the easiest, and this is according to round 3 overall. So this is just we're talking last round. So it went hole 11, hole 7, and then 13, 16, 6.
Okay. So, and I'm not picking on him, of course. It's just funny when you look back at how good those rounds were, and to think he missed 2 of the easiest holes on the course. And then I think he actually kicked out of bounds maybe on 17. That provided a little, unwanted blemish, of course. But yeah, I mean, kind of got to say, what do you do with that? I mean, seriously.
You win. That's what you do with that. When your putt is on like his is, it seems like those first run Lunas are really gelling with him. And you have a course that feels like it's built for Paul McBeth. Because he seems like he's the most comfortable when he needs to put power behind accuracy. So he's not throwing up probably 100%. He's probably throwing 90, 85%. But he can do that better than anybody. He has the most accuracy with the most power, I feel. He might not be we know Eagle and Simon, they will outdrive Paul. But when you want to throw some accuracy into that particular shot, Paul McBeth is the best there is, probably the best there ever was, and maybe the best in our lifetime.
Okay. That's yeah.
For that particular style of shot, I can't think of anybody else that can throw that hard with that amount of accuracy.
Yeah, and we all know that when he's on, he's pretty much unstoppable. When he's playing well, it's always going to be impressive. And you can. I'm not a stats or numbers guy, but when people really put it in perspective and say, 4 out of his last 5 rounds have been course records. That's an interesting way to look at it. When you go back to the Waco, 18 under at Waco, of course. And yeah, I hate to sound stupid and be kind of speechless, but there's not much else you can really say about all of that. So congratulations to him. Congratulations to the handful of people. I think I also have it on a little video who qualified for the USDGC. There were a few players that did that as well. So congratulations to them. I know Johnny McCrae and Charlie Goodpasture. I don't know. Someone said there were 5 spots and someone said there were just 2. And if they were 2, I think it might have been those 2 that got them. So congratulations to them as well, as that was a really big deal. Of course, to get qualified for that USDGC spot. Certainly. Available here this weekend.
And I want to give I know you've already done it, but to put it in perspective, I'll give a little plug. Go watch Terry's footage to see how difficult the course is for most players, and then go watch the Jomez footage to see how Paul makes that course look easy when it's not. It is something to something to behold. It really truly is.
Well, and we've seen Kelvin Heimberg, who's so solid out here. Obviously solid everywhere he goes with his even claiming the Vegas title a few weeks ago. He bested Paul during the October event out here with a pretty similar layout, a few different changes. And I don't think it would have been crazy if someone would have been betting on Heimberg over McBeth at this course this weekend. And then Paul just put it in another gear and did what he did. So I know I asked the kind of cheesy question last week, and do I finally put it to bed under my Mickey Mouse pillow here? The whole, is it the disc? Is it the thrower? That kind of argument. Clearly, they're working for him, and clearly he didn't need that much of an adjustment period.
Yeah, we knew. I mean, I think we all knew in our heart that it wouldn't take Paul long to adjust. He said he doesn't feel like, when he steps out on the course, you expect the best from him. Yeah. That's what he said. And we saw at wintertime, I may go as far as to say the weather might have thrown him for a loop out there. It's one thing to know your plastic, and then it's one thing to come out at the first event of the year and have that plastic that you know pretty well, and then put a layer of rain on it. Mm-hmm. I can understand maybe a little bit of issues. You might not know your plastic that well in the rain, especially when it's new. But as we've seen, he's done nothing but get better and better and better. And I don't know where he can go from here. Has Paul McBeth peaked, Terry? Come on. Has Paul McBeth peaked? I've
been saying he's just been washed up, but now. All right. Enough of the Paul McBeth praise. Solid weekend.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to send something to Paul. I'm officially going to create an open call on my system and just give it to Paul for whenever he wants to dial in now. He's officially got the SmashBoxx bat phone where whenever he wants to dial in, he can just jump on. I don't care who the guest is. He can just jump on and help us out because there's nothing more he can accomplish. I don't know. So.
All right. And there are a few clarifications coming out on the board. Darren LeMay he was out there along with his daughter. I know he was taking some pictures. I believe he did a little write-up for Ultra World, and maybe he was posting to their Instagram. He said they were, in fact, 5 USDGC qualifiers. And again, I know I actually recorded it. I just don't recall all of the names that were that called off. But congratulations to all of them, of course.
Real quick, we'll rattle off. Obviously, Paul McBeth wins. 14 strokes better than second place Michael Joe, tied with Chris Dickerson. Fourth place Calvin. Fifth place Mr. Coling himself. Sixth Johnny McRae. Seventh Charlie Goodpasture. Eighth Aaron Doyle. Ninth Mr. Simon Lizotte. And 10th Noah Meinstma.
Out of Minnesota. And on the FPO side, can you round out the 4 caching spots? I think they paid 4 out of the 9.
I don't care about caching spots, Terry. We're going to go top 5. Madison Walker by 8 strokes over Ellen Widboom and Elaine King, both tied at 23 over par. Holly Finley at 28 over par, and then Courtney McCoy at 33 over par.
Okay, well. Crazy, just a crazy and awesome weekend, and as I alluded to with Jacksonville and Tallahassee in the next couple of weeks, just like Texas has a little bit of a swing here to keep people and to bring people here and keep them here for a few weeks. Florida's doing the same, being Jacksonville and then Tallahassee over the next 2 weekends. So hopefully we'll run into some more people out here that are ready for taking in some of the action. Very mild, very calm conditions throughout this weekend. I'm not sure if we're going to see any additional heat or humidity or winds or anything like that, but the conditions were perfect, and clearly a few people took advantage of just that. So anything else in the news? I mean, we saw these play, the play, we saw some videos released. I think there was a lot of conversation going around the Disc Golf Pro Tour. I think as of last week we were talking about it, how they were planning to get the Waco footage out. I believe that has now surfaced and is available.
Correct.
12, probably 12 total videos.
I believe so. Yeah, 3 rounds, 2 divisions, front and back 9. That makes sense. We saw. Okay. Yeah, I mean, and I'll say, we don't need to harp on the Disc Golf Pro Tour media because there's really not a lot new this week, but the post-production footage looks okay. I mean, it's not it's not top notch yet. I think they're clearly making strides, and we'll see how they continue to improve and hopefully accelerate the release schedule. Other than that, I don't have a lot to say about it. It's out, and we can only hope that they just continue to do better.
Well, and I'll, in a side kind of note to that, it was interesting. I had put it upon myself to release next day footage of the throw down the mountain. That originally was not my plan. It was kind of a last minute decision. And I said, okay, I'm going to come back and I'm going to work on getting these edited right away. Of course, final round being a different challenge as I left right from the park and came to Disney World. It was interesting to see the numbers and the viewership when I had really solid cards. Now, clearly, I'm not fooling myself or anyone else when I understand there's a significant gap between Jomez production quality and what I'm putting out, especially being single camera without nearly as fancy graphics and all that stuff. But I was even surprised, and I don't know if that's just a Jomez and McBeth combo, that everything else just is dwarfed in relation. And then I started to second guess myself, thinking, would there have been more traction of the chase card action had I released it, say, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week? And these are woulda, coulda, shouldas, or who knows. But that was one thing that came to my mind this weekend, is thought, they're getting this amazing footage and these great hot rounds. Like, and does that even affect how people want to view the tournament? You're like, you see nearly a perfect round or these incredible rounds by Paul, and if no one shoots anywhere near that, does it make it a little less interesting to follow some of the other players? I mean, those are all thoughts that kind of went through my mind. I'd be curious to know what other people think of that, but it did make me wonder, would any kind of a stagger increased interest or viewership? Do you have any thoughts on that, Johnny?
I don't know what the YouTube mojo is, to be honest. It's so hard to say. It really is. And to even speculate about whether pushing coverage back a couple days for the chase card versus the lead card, if the lead card has someone who's dominating versus if it's a close match with the second card, it's all mojo to me. And there are so many variables as to what would drive up numbers. I have no clue, honestly.
Yeah.
I do want to fall back real quick on Throw Down the Mountain, the final round, which you're covering.
Yep.
There was currently a video that came out about hole 18 from down in the gully that everyone shoots into. Everybody throws down there and then throws up. But what we saw,
some people don't even make it to the bottom of the hill. Like, you need a good shot to get to the bottom of the hill. Otherwise, you can be OB and not even make it to the bottom. I mean, you'd think gravity would just do the work, but it doesn't. You have to throw a good shot just to get to the bottom of the hill.
And we saw Simon Lizotte, or we didn't quite see him. We saw the flight of the disc, and once your coverage is released, I'm sure we'll see more of the throw. Go from tee to green, which my understanding has never been done, ever.
It has been attempted.
And
it has never been done.
So that is a 600-foot Anheuser, approximately, a little more than that. I know, because the hole itself is longer than that, but from tee to green, I believe the hole itself, it measures at 810 feet.
Correct. Okay.
But
that's what I was just going to look up. Yep.
But the actual flight, because you're not going down and then back up, probably a little closer to 600 to 650, somewhere around there. And he crushed an Anheuser, made it onto the green. You mentioned to me that might be, in your eyes, one of the greatest disc golf shots you've ever seen.
I would challenge someone to come up with a better, at least tee shot, and we could all, you think about
big putts, the Ricky,
a Philo, or a Philo Albatross. Obviously, that's clearly amazing too. The full flex of that disc, the distance, so on and so forth. Amazing, and then what it did for our sport. I mean, so there's like the overall impact. But I would be hard pressed to find a more impressive tee shot ever in disc golf. And maybe they're out there. Maybe someone's got a story. I've seen a lot of good golf throughout the years, the last 25 years.
We've heard of crazy shots. I saw something come up from Timmy Gill the other day, and most of us have heard the story about him throwing kind of a shank shot, hitting a bird or a duck, and then redirecting for the ace. I mean, there are some crazy things that we've all seen out there, but as far as a pure, almost perfect shot on that difficult of a hole, I was racking my brain, and I can't think of a single tee drive like that.
No, and what people will somewhat see, and I got to tell you, there's a lot of interaction in this last video, especially in the back nine. Big Germ and Johnny McRae and Charlie and, of course, Simon. Lots of interaction that I leave right in there for you guys to consume, including the drive and that putt and the conversation that surrounds it. Paul McBeth actually chimes in kind of a post-round interview. And to think about how you definitely can't be to the right of the landing zone because it's either OB or it's OB. You obviously can't be if you're just short, you're going to be on the hillside and you're going to be out of bounds. You can go wide left. I don't know how you'd get there. I mean, the precision that's needed in addition to the distance is what makes that so much more impressive. The distance itself is kind of disgusting to think, okay, you had to throw that 600-ish feet, but then the fact that you had to land it in a very specific area on top of it, and it's just a blind turnover. It's ridiculous. Matt from UDisc is saying, well, what about the Nico drive on 18 at Green Mountain?
No.
Seeing both in person, not even close. I mean, of course, impressive shot by Nico. Not even I wouldn't. That doesn't even get an honorable mention in the Simon top 5. And again, that's not a rip on Nico. That just is how good of a shot that was. Somebody also had said, well, maybe
the Barsby roller ace, the 400-foot roller ace that's out there. I mean, that's
sure.
That's a memorable, epic shot. I chalk
that's
that
a lot of luck.
Little bit more up to luck at that very end as opposed to what Simon did, but it I would say it's up there. That could be put up there in one of the pantheons.
Definitely memorable, as you're saying, and epic. It's so tough. I mean, he literally, for those that don't know, we're talking about Masters Cup 6, 7, 8 years ago, maybe even longer. Yeah, at least now. Yeah. Greg Barsby on a blind hole throws a roller on a hole you'd love to get a 3 on. Like if every pro in the world would say, oh, I'd love a 3 on that hole. Well, he throws a roller and then just short of the basket, 10 or 8 or 12 feet short of the basket, it hits some kind of a stick or a stump on a roller and then bounces up and goes into the basket. So that's as good as getting struck by lightning at that point. Simon's, there was no luck at all. And again, not taking away from Barsby, of course. You're right. I cannot think of a more skillful, impressive tee shot that I've ever seen. It was incredible. And someone had said, well, what about David Wiggins? I believe it was Wiggins and another big arm or two that have gone to that tee and tried to reach the green in practice, and most people can't do it or even get close to it, let alone doing it on the final round during your final throw when it actually counts for something. Now, to be fair, Simon was kind of in aggressive, playful Simon mode, and if it went OB, he probably really didn't care. But the fact that he actually executed the shot and got it to stick is, So you'll see that that will be in the footage, and then I have a separate little clip that I'd like to release as well with it. And just all I can say is just enjoy it. The one downside, and I don't want to say I hate to admit it, the one detractor from all of this is I was out there as a single camera operator for the weekend, and so you essentially get to see him throw the tee shot, and you don't get to see the majority of the flight of it because it's blind right off the tee. And quite frankly, no one's ever going for that. I don't know. I mean, a catch cameraman probably would have hopefully then seen it and been like, where the hell is this going? But no catch cameraman's ever like, oh yeah, I better get in position for that shot, because no one's throwing that shot. And that's what's crazy.
I looked at the Jomez footage of the lead card, and I was watching that. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure it was probably Michael, is down where everybody throws to. Like, that's everybody's going there. So even if you have a second cameraman and he's down there, like you said, suddenly you're like, oh crap. And you're all, you're watching that and hopefully you're filming it. But I don't think it would have been that much better than the cell phone footage we saw from the bottom. Honestly, I don't think, because the shock and just randomness, unless Simon flat out told you beforehand, hey, I'm going for this, you better get your cameraman up that hill. You're then sacrificing 3 other shots that are going to go where they're going for the one possible Simon. And is it worth it? Sure, if he hits it. The chance he hits it, though, ooh, wow. I mean, it's awesome nonetheless.
Yeah, and to be fair, Simon is very gracious and helpful in that sense that he normally would probably give me that heads up, but A, I had no idea that he was going to go for it, and B, it would have been kind of a holdup because I would have literally, in that case, if I would have known, I would have walked down to the bottom of the hill and I would have got the shot myself. But I don't know when he made that decision. That's one thing I didn't ask him, is exactly if it was after hole 17 or if he knew 6 holes earlier. I have no idea. But again, it doesn't even cross anyone's mind. At no point ever are you thinking, oh, somebody might be, trying to throw this. It doesn't happen. It's incredible.
Well, bravo to him for having, again, one of the greatest shots in disc golf history. I mean, he's got a few of them up there in the top 10 right now, maybe even a couple in the top 5, but ultimately a fun guy to watch. And as everybody knows, you can never look away from that guy. It's not that you can't count him out. You can just never look away from him because he's always going to throw something crazy at you. Yeah,
he's out there having a good time, and I just can't say enough how gracious he was to also help do the play calling and the shot by shot, and working with me all weekend, being pretty flexible, and it was awesome. So it was a lot of fun for sure. That is the majority of what I have. Of course, it was a big weekend and a lot of fun, and I got to see a lot of great golf. I did follow, Simon ultimately was on either chase or feature or third card every round, so it made sense to follow him around. It was a lot of fun doing just that. So I feel like we got plenty of great footage. Again, I want to thank Big Germ for doing the final. Simon was lined up. I talked to him earlier today about doing it, and then he had some things come up this afternoon, so he couldn't do the final round of commentary with me. But Big Germ was also very gracious. And a little spoiler, there's if I end up making a top 10 list of shots, which I think I'm going to do from Throwdown, I'm going to spoil it and tell you at least 4 or 5 of the shots come in from this third round, maybe even 6. Like, there were some fireworks during that final round, and it was a lot of fun, and some just really good golf, of course. So huge shout out Mike Barnett, Sun King, all those guys, and of course Discraft. And as Jeremy was on the board, I met Jeremy Stewart, got some pictures, and just a great warm welcome, and so many amazing people. Big Germ pulled off a feat in his own that he somehow managed to get a caddy that I think was taller than him. So I think it's something with these tall guys. They kind of stick together, because when I see Big Germ with a caddy, quite frequently it's someone who's as tall or taller than him, which is again impressive in its own.
We like each other. We do. Yeah. And coming from another tall guy, you don't want a short caddy, because then you're always bending over to get the disc. Yeah. It's probably bad on your back. Just, let's find, if I have to, I stack 2 short people. That's assuming I would ever have a caddy.
Yeah, I believe that was Doran was the gentleman that was out there, who also was very supportive of us over at SmashBoxx and the Disc Golf Guy vlog. So big shout out to him as well, as I see Disc Golf Strong logging on for the night as well. Awesome. I'm going to ask outright here on the board. I saw another chime in from Dion, and not to pin you in a corner, but if you want to talk to Dion.
I think Dion is going to be a great guest for a couple of reasons.
He would be.
So, and I know your kids probably want to go and get to sleep at some point.
Here's the pizza. Ooh, deep dish pizza. Oh, that you can't see, that I didn't get to eat yet, as it's just still sitting here. And it looks delicious.
Go throw it in the microwave for a couple seconds. And
all right, guys. Well, I'm going to cut things short. Of course, we Smashbox and the Disc Golf Guy vlog channel. We appreciate all the love and the support. I do have brand new Kongs, the brand new Raptors. I'll make sure that tonight, Johnny, when you do the drawing, let's give away one of the brand new Discraft discs that I just got in stock. If you want to support me any further and just buy one outright, you can do that as well. Reach out to me on Facebook. But we have the new releases, and tonight will be one of those new release discs. I think that seems very appropriate as well. So I'm going to cut it. I thank you guys. Johnny, it looks like Dion says he's going to be ready to go.
Yeah.
And it's great you guys can catch up and keep everything rolling. And I'm going to excuse myself. So thank you. Thank you, Florida. Thank you, Throw It on the Mountain. Thank you again to the readers for putting us up, and UDisc and Joe Mez and everyone that had any part of this weekend's success. It was awesome, and all the men and the women that I had the pleasure of covering, and of course Simon, like I said earlier, for helping out. All right, Johnny, cut me out, leave me, cut it, end it. I don't know what you got to do, but see you guys. Good night from Disney.
Bye, Felicia. All right, that's Terry, the Disc Golf Guy Miller. Thanks a lot for joining the show tonight. Terry is one of my favorite guests to have on the show. We're going to have Dion Arlyn, Discraft Zone, stop in here in a couple minutes and join the show. Dion, when you want, just go ahead and give a call to the old Skype. We got you under control. For a couple questions, for those of you that are looking for the Smashbox Unsanctioned podcast, I'm hoping to line up a couple guests this week. With vacation and things, I got a little busy and I fell behind, and I need to get back on that. All right, we got Dion calling the show. So There we go. Sorry about that, folks. For those of you that joined on the show, for some reason, when I dropped Terry's call and I picked up Dion, it crashed the system. So we should be back now, and we'll just blame Dion for that. It's generally Dion's fault. We are bringing Dion on the show here, and let's bring him into this shot real quick. I just need to make one little adjustment. Boom. And there we go. So now, without any further ado, we're going to bring Dion the Whip, as you are so known, the Discraft sponsor. Dion, now that you guys have Paul McBeth on your team and Paul Ulibarri and all these other guys, how much more are you itching to get back out on the course and back out on tour?
So much more. And, I actually, fortunately, will be able to play some events. I'm signed up for 4 large tournaments coming up, including the Portland Open, the Kitsap Classic, which is an A tier, and the Beaver State Fling. So I'll actually get to play those this year and try to put myself against the best in the world and see how rusty I've really become.
Have you had a chance? A lot of the talk right now is the Discraft, the Raptor and the Kong and the Luna. Have you had a chance to play with them? Have you had a chance to get out and do much with them?
Unfortunately, no. Kyle Crabtree got the prototype sent to him, and I was able to hold them at least and get a sense for the feel. But I haven't gotten a box of discs from Discraft without asking in a while, which comes with being semi-retired. So I'm sure if I bug him and ask for a box, I'll get some discs. But I'm excited to see him and try them out.
Bob, Julio, if you're listening, get Dion a few discs. Maybe not a whole box. Send half the box to me and the other half to him, and we'll work it out.
Yeah, so. Bob's super gracious. The email he sent me about a year ago was like, hey, I noticed you don't play anymore, so I'm going to take you off the team officially, but if you need anything, just let me know. I was like, thanks, Bob.
Yeah, I get it. Trimming the fat a little bit here and there. Now, we've got, exactly. we've got this anchor. It's taking a lot of money. Sorry, we can't afford everything. Awkward. So you're playing a couple events. What are you able to get in any practice, or how are you feeling right now as far as your
sure,
game?
I'm Feeling great. I've been playing just kind of the local B tier and C tiers and getting my butt kicked by Kyle Crabtree and Chandler Fry, who are also Discraft now. So, we've got a lot of sweeps on the season going 1, 2, 3 and here in Washington. But feeling good. And I think once I get a little bit more time on the practice screen, my putting will be in place. My off the tee game is still excellent, maybe better. Due to just having a better mental state and getting to enjoy the process instead of, trying to battle for rent money. So it's been great.
Yeah. Do you think that age has, I mean, clearly you slowed down with your play, but do you feel that in general, your age and we'll say wisdom has helped your game, even though you've been,
Absolutely.
we'll say, off the tour?
Yeah, absolutely. Just having a greater perspective on life, having a family, having kids, you don't get so worked up about missing a 15-foot putt. Yes, it sucks, but it's like, oh yeah, I gotta pay a couple grand in bills this month too. So, I'm gonna pick my battles where I need to, as far as getting upset and feeling stressed for life. So the disc golf course is a complete release. And even if I'm not playing well, it's much easier to go, wow, I'm having such a great time being out here, and just getting to compete is a great opportunity. And, I don't take it for granted. So that mental game is really making it possible.
You may be one of our first guests that has shown up in a shirt and tie like that. So,
oh yeah,
you've got. That
I got a reputation. I was wearing a hoodie and pajamas, and then apparently I got to look good on camera.
Yes, I do believe last time you had a hoodie, pajamas, and maybe even your daughter in your lap at the time. Yep. So
I fully expect her to come busting in at any minute. But
that's we've seen it once tonight with Terry already, with his daughter hopping in.
Yeah.
So what are you making of the Discraft scene right now? I mean, we're going to make this a little bit, we'll say Discraft heavy for a little bit, but what are you making of the scene with all the new players? Everyone from, like I said, Paul and Paul to Kyle, and in your area, we've got Austin Hannum, who started out extremely hot.
Yeah, it's exciting. Discraft did it the right way. They not only grabbed Paul McBeth for that top tier representation, but they were smart enough to actually push out the top regional guys and the dudes that would be really battling on tour, if not for wins, for that top 10 visibility. So huge kudos to Discraft for having the wisdom to actually spread out the sponsorship through multiple people. So think about it this way: if 3 cards are getting covered at every big event, guaranteed there's a Discraft player on each of those coverages. So
at least one. Yeah.
Very well thought out there.
Yeah, definitely at least one Discraft player, if not probably 2 or 3 now.
Yeah, which was, if you think back to some of the earlier days, you'd get lucky with maybe MJ, Nate Doss. Beyond that, I can't even think of what Discraft. I'm sure I'm forgetting an obvious one. But we
saw some of the regional guys. Your Tim Barhams would pop in, and then for a year or two, it was Austin Turner. He was kind of a big thing right now, and he's obviously injured right now. But you're right, and it clearly Discraft is making all the right moves, I think is the saying in the movie. But I can't even. Paul McBeth did an interview about whether or not if he was, if he was worried. No, I think it was just what's one thing you can say as far as the general feeling at Discraft.
Yep.
And it was something along the lines of they're not worried about my investment, or something along those lines, because I think Discraft has crushed the sales market recently. I mean, with all the discs, with anything Paul's name has been on, I would not be shocked, and I don't know any numbers, but I wouldn't be shocked for them if someone told me, yeah, we've already made the first 2 years of Paul's payments without even thinking. And this is the first line. This is the first line of discs we've seen. There are more to come. So I think next year we're probably going to see a few more pop up. Maybe another mid range and another driver or two. So
Yep. That was on the Upshot. I actually listened to that on the way home tonight, or maybe on the way to work this morning, with Jamie Thomas interviewing Paul McBeth on their podcast. And from the way Paul was describing it, and I was lucky enough to go visit the Discraft factory when I went on tour, and it is very homey, very family oriented, but very low key. There's not a lot of hubbub at a disc manufacturer, office location. It's office space. So I think Paul coming in and seeing that, and then going like, in his mind maybe going like, all right, hold on to your butts, this is about to get real. It was fun to see that come to fruition. And I know the dudes at Discraft and all the employees at Discraft are feeling it, and it's the best possible outcome. So very excited to see that.
He is a whirlwind and unique in our sport, and we've seen it with the 218 downs and what he just did this past weekend. He didn't shoot a perfect round, but yet was out there breaking records left and right. I jokingly said that I don't know what they're, other than win more worlds and a couple majors.
Yep.
I don't know what else he can surprise us with, because at this point he's the odds-on favorite to win worlds. He should be the odds-on favorite to win basically any major he steps onto. If you gave me Paul versus the field, I'm taking Paul every time. I don't know how he can surprise us anymore, other than maybe shooting the true, we'll say, perfect round of all 18 birdies, or it may throw 17 birdies and an eagle in there for a 19. I don't know.
Yeah, I think well is deeper there than you think. I think he's going to do some things that are just truly won't be touched again for a long time. To put a couple of things into perspective, he shot 18 down after changing to a new sponsor on a course where you need to have some things go right, but he's the only person to ever do it, and he's the only person to ever do it twice. So, that's just unfathomable. And then the way he played in Florida, I was watching the UDisc live, see him going, 13 to 14, or 14 through 15 holes. I was like, he's going to do it. He's going to find a way to get an eagle and go 18 down again. Like I was fully expecting that outcome, and that should be a testament to how truly off the charts he is.
I don't even know. Again, we're, like Terry said, we're running out of things to say about him, because he does, lately at least, he's not making many mistakes. And to pick on the one or two that he does is just, it's minuscule when he's blowing competition out of the water, and you can be like, oh yeah, I don't necessarily know if I would have thrown the Anheuser on 17 or something like that. It doesn't matter at this point. And
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know, Dion. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And, for perspective, the 14 down that he shot in the 1090s for the rating is only 7 points behind his 18 down at Waco. Like, that should give you a clue as to how hard that course is. That to get 4 more birdies, he's going to be in the 1020 range, or 1120 range for rating. Like, that's an insanely hard course. And he just did it 3 rounds in a row. That's unreal.
Yeah, Darren LeMay, who's a Florida guy, has been, just talking about in general how that he was trying to go 18 at Throwdown the Mountain, and clearly he failed, but he's
what a failure.
Write him off. What else are you seeing as far as? Well, I guess here's a question: you've been a Discraft sponsored player, so to speak, for a while now, or part of the Discraft family, we'll say at this point now. Do you have much old plastic? I've seen, the Discraft, even the old stuff is starting to pick up some value.
Yeah, I've never been much of a collector. I started in disc golf in 2003 when the Beast was released and the Orc was released, and I had stacks and stacks of Proline Beasts and the Pearly Orcs, and that was just commonplace. So I think back to moments like that, had I been more crystal ball into the future of what was going to be collectible, I would hang on to all those Innova drivers and those runs of things. Funny story, Colin Sexton, Nate's brother, was literally the first person to ever hold a Destroyer, because they were pulled out of the box at the Wisconsin Worlds in Highbridge, and Colin was right there, and he's like, "Oh, what's that?" And they're like, "Oh, it's the new Destroyer," and he's like, "Cool, $20 gets one," So I wish I had that disc back, or Colin still had it, but
Mm-hmm.
so as far as go for it.
I was gonna say, or all the probably the old buzzes that you had at some point in your career. I mean, those are all going. Some of those first run buzzes from 2003, I believe, 2002, 2004, somewhere around there. Those are going for $300-$400 a pop right now for the first run.
Yeah.
I believe the Wasp tooled buzzes, the first runs, which I have, I think 2 or 3 of them sitting in my closet with a stack of the other bar stamp ones that I have that aren't necessarily first runs, but yeah, that is.
I only have one of those. Sadly, it's actually in my bag right now. It was the Great Northwest Open, which was a tournament. Avery Jenkins, Brad Hammock, Dave Felberg, dudes like that would come out to Oregon and play a Whistler's Bend tournament. And it was my player's pack disc from that event. It was a Wasp tooled buzz. And so I wasn't even Discraft at that time, so I didn't throw a lot of Discraft. But I still have that one. It's in the bag now as my super straight buzz. Probably the most collectible disc I have from Discraft would be the Elite Z Reaper. I have a big stack of those. The ESP Nebula from the Ace Race. Those are great discs.
Oh, wow.
And then I have a couple of Nuke OSs that never made it to production. So I have a kind of the history of all the prototype nukes. So that's pretty cool.
No, that is pretty cool. I don't think I have any of the Nebulas. I have a few Ace Race discs myself.
Yep.
And I don't think I ever got any of the Nebula, so to speak. But I do have a couple of the Reapers and a couple really old Predators as well. That
Yep.
just kind of sit in a box back there that they've probably been thrown maybe for a month or two, and then you cycle them out with something else, because what I tended to do was find a disc I liked, and then, oh, look, a new disc, as every amateur does, and you throw that in your bag, and, oh, well, it's stable. I don't need this Destroyer or this whatever anymore. So it's rather than actually sit and refine a particular bag or run of discs. And clearly that's different now. I need to, at some point, someone made a joke about doing it in the bag with me, and it would, I'd almost have to follow Paul McBeth's thing and do a building the bag, because my bag is so scattered right now from not having played for so long. And then it was a couple of years ago, my bag was stolen out of my car, so I just kind of threw something together. And the only thing I really miss out of that bag was a very, very, very early run buzz. That it was like that. It was a straight flyer. I mean, it was pure. It was that beautiful orange color with a custom stamp, and it just went wherever you threw it. And all the ones I have now are just they're not quite as beat. And it's funny because I love the way those first runs fly, but I'd be out of my gourd if I would actually go into my closet and grab one. Like, it makes no sense to me for someone of my skill level right now to tell myself I really need to throw a $300 piece of plastic. Like, I can make that up with something else and get close enough.
Yep.
But discs are.
You know what's interesting?
What?
I was gonna say, Discraft makes such great plastic. It takes forever for them to wear in, and the best forces in my bag have been in my bag literally for 7 years. And I look at Paul and what he's doing with just fresh, probably stable to overstable copies of everything. I think he has those Jawbreaker Wasps are his kind of understable mid range, which is kind of funny in its own right. But he doesn't have anything seasoned. He doesn't have anything that's flip up and hold. He's throwing pure flights off the flight chart basically, which is insane to me. So I imagine, think about that in a year or 2 years, some of his discs will be like his go-to discs, and then like, oh, he already could shoot 18 down with fresh plastic. Imagine it being like comfortable and old hat to him. Watch out.
I made this decision probably about 4 or 5 years ago. It was like 4 years ago. I think it was right after my bag was stolen, and I just decided I'm done with beat-in plastic. Like, if I would rather find a disc that does what I want new, or at least relatively new, than try to work something in. And not to say that I won't have beaten plastic in my bag, but I would rather, for a straight flyer disc, I'd rather be able to replace it. If I lose it, if I throw it, if it cracks or something, I'd rather be able to go, okay, cool, I just need another one of these. And for better or worse, all right, for better, I suppose, and I don't know necessarily how true it is, but growing up, we always kind of had the mentality of Discraft had the most, we always thought, consistent plastic. You could grab a disc from one run 3 years later, the same mold, and it felt like it was going to do the exact same thing. Whereas of Innova, there was more subtlety to the runs. You know, you could get something like, oh, this is a little more domey. This run is a little more flippy. It's going to kind of fly a little bit this way. Or you want to get the red ones in this one. For Discraft, I never kind of felt that way. I always, and I primarily threw the mid ranges and still do. But it always felt like I could just grab one off my shelf and it was going to fly the way I assumed it was going to.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I've been very seldom, disappointed by getting a disc, from Discraft and going like, oh man, that Avenger isn't like the last one I had. It's happened a few times, and it's usually because of a different plastic. Like I got the ESP Meteor, and then next year I got the Z Meteor, and it's a little different. Like, okay, different plastic, different results. What finally kind of made me never want to play for Innova or just made me too frustrated with throwing Innova back in 2007, 2008 was I went to go buy the Eagle, and Champion Eagle was the Eagle X, and they were running that for years. And then I went and bought a stack of 10 Eagles, and they were all Eagle Ls, and they were all worthless because it wasn't what I was looking for. But they never told anybody that they were changing the run. It's a completely different mold, so it was like, how are you going to switch out discs like that without even making it known? So to me, that was unacceptable. And Discraft, fortunately, maybe due to the size of their runs, never even had to worry about stuff like that. They're using the same molds, same plastics, so it was never an issue.
Yeah, and that exactly, that goes right along with what I was saying, is that the discs are just a little, hey, how's it going, honey?
Hey,
time.
okay, go to sleep. Go see mama.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 8:20 over there. And that was one of the things that it always felt like you could find something with Innova that you liked, but ultimately it just, when you found something, you bought 10 of them, and you wanted to make sure that you had that run of that color of that weight, and it was going to be great, and you'd be set for a while. But you couldn't necessarily rely on that being the same in a couple of years, like I felt like I could with Discraft, and maybe that will change now with Discraft expanding and getting bigger. They'll different or additional molding machines, things like that they're probably going to have to ramp up now that they have all this demand. Maybe we're going to see some more of that. I don't know, but it kind of goes along the lines of the Ultra Star, which is just always the same,
right?
And I think that is one of the things that maybe fed into that, whether it was whether it was just the way I felt or whether it was true. I don't think there's ever been anybody that's really gone over and looked at some of the specs over the last 15 years of discs. But the Ultra Star just always seemed to fly the same no matter when you got one. And I've got a small stack of them as well from tournaments that give them away in players packages or things like that.
Right. Yep. So yeah, I think they've done well. They've rode that reputation into, I think, our current manifestation of Discraft takeover. So it's pretty sick.
Yeah, I know, it makes you kind of feel sad. You're like, oh, where was this when I was playing? Where's all this Discraft love when I was out on the course? But they're definitely getting it
For
now.
sure. Hey, I'll go on record on your show, Johnny. You get a exclusive soundbite. I will go on tour for a 10th of the cost of Paul McBeth. You only have to pay me $100,000 per year, and I will play full time. I know it's a tough decision. I know. I'm asking a lot, but I will do it if I have to.
Well, I think you need to work on getting that 1017 rating up about, I would say 20 more points, and you might have a chance. If you can bump that up 20 more points, I bet you they give you a second look.
I promise if they pay me $100,000 a year to go on tour, I will bump it up 20 points. How about that?
Wow, that's bold. You heard it. You heard it here, Discraft. Get Dion back on the course. So, Disc Golf Nerd, who is our resident guy out there in Oregon, who does a lot of our reviews, is asking for a quick bag rundown for you right now.
Yeah, you bet. I have it in the bag video from a few years ago, filmed out at Milo. Short answer is basically everything's exactly the same, like almost the exact same discs. I've lost only like 3 discs from the filming of that video. So putting with ringers, approaching with breakers. Probably the biggest change is I do have buzzes in the bag now. I usually never did, but now I've got the TI buzz, Chandler Fries, Chanimal stamped ESP buzz, that first run buzz I mentioned, Meteor, and Drone. So that's the mid-range lineup, and I'm working on that touch backhand with that set of buzzes. And then it's Predators, Forces, Surges off the tee for everything else, backhand and forehand, very straight ahead.
Yeah, we don't see. I mean, I don't know if Paul currently in the bag has a Surge. I don't believe I saw that in his building a bag. I vaguely remember. I watched it, and as I do with most things, I burned right through it.
Yeah, he wouldn't. I thought it was hysterical seeing him discover the Predator. He was saying he was using the sound bites, and he even used this in I think Johnny Disc Golf's in with him that was on YouTube recently. He was using the sound bite of like, oh, the Predator doesn't feel great for forehands, and then he actually started throwing it. He's like, oh my god, this is such a great disc for forehands. So I've known that for a long time, and between that and the Force, I don't think he's going to need a Surge like disc. The flip up straight forehand. He doesn't really throw that shot, so I don't think we'll see Surges in his bag. I don't think he needs that slot.
No, I was always sold on the Predators personally when I watched way back in the day Kale, who was a Discraft sponsor player, throw them, and it didn't matter. Like, to me, those things were stable. Like, I knew that thing was going to be solid in the wind, and then I'd watch him go up and throw a real simple flex shot with it, and he threw it straight. He threw a flex shot. He had I think only like 2 or maybe 3 different Predators, and he could get him to do whatever he wanted, and it was, and he did it just like he does now with his Prodigy discs. It was where he wanted him, 350 feet, and just it's one of those things. I was always in awe of Kale. I'm like, how are you throwing that thing's a meat hook to me? How are you getting it to do that? And Kale, I mean, again, Kale being Kale can kind of do whatever he wants with almost any plastic. So, as we've seen on the move to Prodigy and some of the other, I remember I think he used to throw a Meteor or 2, and then he went to the M4s, of which he handed me 1 or 2 at one point, and he's like, here. And I remember he's like, these used to be called maybe it was M3. I don't know. He's like, they used to be called M3 or M4, and now we're changing the name. And I never understood. I had because it was gone. He's like, I had one that was one thing, and it was renamed another thing, and I never know what they were. So I never went back to get more, even though I loved the disc. I was like, is it an M3 or is it an M4? I forget, Kale. And I just ended up putting a comment in my bag. So sticking
That's
with
awesome.
the Discraft mid ranges as I always have.
Yep.
So what else do you have for us, Dion? What's going on over in you're still in Oregon, right? Yeah, you are.
Washington. Yeah, I moved up to Washington.
Okay, you're not up in Oregon then.
Yep, here we go.
So how is
how's
life in general?
Well, it's going great. I got a new boy. I think last time you had me on, we were like 6-7 months pregnant, but he was born. He's 7 weeks old now, and he's 9 pounds, 9 ounces out of the gate. Big, healthy baby. Great personality, great temperament. So he's been an absolute joy to add to the family.
Wait, did you say 9 pounds, 9 ounces?
9 pounds, 9 ounces. We got my wife, Stephanie, to the hospital. Her water broke very early in the morning. We were kind of moving slow, getting to the hospital because labor took 24 hours with our first. And she gets to the triage room, and they go, hey, we need to just verify that you're in active labor. And nurse goes, checks her, and she's 9 centimeters. So Phoenix is our son's name. He pops out 30 minutes later, and natural birth, no complications, 9 pound, 9 ounce, healthy baby.
That is, we're going to get into a little bit of baby talk here on Smashbox. That's a giant baby. Because my son, very similar experience, except he was the first. My wife is like, oh, I was watching the baseball All-Star game, and she's like, I think I got a cramp. And I turn around, and we're at like the 6th inning, and I'm like, okay. Even though you're due in like a week, like, okay. And then like half an inning later, she's like, oh, gee. I'm like, okay, let's wrap it up. We're gonna go to the hospital. And she's like, no, I'm fine. And I'm like, okay. And then one more time, and I'm like, no, seriously, we're going. We get in the car, get all the way there, and they did the same thing. They're like, well, we're just going to verify everything. These aren't, the fake contractions or the Braxton Hicks or whatever. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're 9 centimeters right now. And she's like, really? And they're like, yeah, but we're going to hold you off for like, another 12 hours or something. We gave her whatever medicine or whatever they needed. And then sure enough, like 7 o'clock in the morning, they're like, okay, let's do this. And boom, half hour later, there was a kid. And he was a big kid at 9 pounds. He was the largest in the hospital that day to do natural birth. And my kid was, my kid's a beast in general. I mean, he's still, I'm 6'6", my wife is 6 foot. So, a pretty solid kid. So 9 pounds, 9 ounces. I am sorry. I'm sorry for her. That is unfortunate, but I'm glad everybody's healthy. That's a big kid.
Went great. And he, not only is he big, but his head is humongous. So, that's all that matters when it comes to childbirth in terms of pain and deliverability. But my wife is a champ, so we were able to get him brought into the world without any issues, and he's doing great.
That's awesome. And your daughter is 3, 4?
Just turned 3, and she absolutely loves her little brother, and it's really fun to see how excited she is to interact with him. And every time he makes a noise, how she runs over, oh, baby's talking, baby's talking. It's adorable.
Have you we got some people like, let's change the subject here. So your daughter 3, have you had a chance to take her out on the course at all? Is she able to get through 9 or a full 18?
Yeah, she's a champ. She's my little practice buddy. She's been out 3 or 4 rounds with me in the last couple of weeks, and she can walk the whole 18. I'll carry her a few times from hole to hole, just, if she starts to get a little grumpy, but as long as we're having fun and kind of play with her as we walk up the fairway, she'll do the whole round, no problem.
That's great, because I know there's the first couple, from year 1 to 2 is easy because you can kind of still keep them in that stroller and you just push them and they don't really want to get out. And then after that, once they're a much better walker and you trust that they're not going to fall over on the course, there can be some times where it's like, oh, cool, we're 3 holes in and now you've just thrown a fit and you don't want to do this anymore. And you're like, okay, I guess we'll go home, because there was 1 or 2 rounds where I believe I had to call it after just a few holes. But now, I think once my son hit 4 or 5, he was good for all 18. I start to bring him out to league. It was a shorter course, but it was a lot of fun. And now that he's 9, I've been talking more about golf, and he's actually getting excited to go out and play. Like, he wants to. Whereas for the last couple of years, he's always been like, okay, I'll go with you. Now he's like, oh, cool, it's getting warmer. Dad, we should go out to the disc golf course. And I'm like, yeah, we should.
Yep.
That's right. We were playing today. It was like 45 degrees out, and we get home, and he goes, hey, let's go play. Let's just go throw football outside. I'm like, cool, yeah, let's do that. My son, who's not an athletic kid at all, and so I took the opportunity. We have one of these footballs, little ones that whistle, and he gets out before me. I walk out about 5 minutes later, and he's like, Dad, check this out. And he grabs it by the fin that's connected to the back of the football. He pulls back like a disc golfer, and he follows through and whips it, and it goes on a line about 60 feet. And he's like, I can throw it I can throw it like a frisbee, Dad. And I look down and I go, why would you? It's a football. Why would you even? And then I picked it up and I did the same thing. And I'm like, oh, that's actually a lot of fun, because it just automatically centers itself because of the fin. So I was like, good call, kid. Great job. So I'm excited to get out this tomorrow. Actually, I might go out. It's supposed to be like 58 degrees or something here, so I'm pumped.
Nice. Yeah, I got lucky last weekend. Vivian was driving my wife crazy, and she just turns and looks at me and she goes, "Daddy, we should go play disc golf." Like, okay,
Yep.
Can't argue with that.
Let's
Gotta
do
get
it.
out of mom's hair. Let's go.
Yeah, Mom doesn't mind. The little one's probably
Exactly.
just sleeping and eating at this point, and if we can stay out of Mom's hair, that's all the better. So you are currently signed up right now for, it looks like, I see you in the Beaver State. You said the Kitsap Classic, the Portland Open. Is this going to be your first Disc Golf Pro Tour event?
It will be. Yep, first Disc Golf Pro Tour event. So I'm very excited to be a part of that and play a course that actually suits my game pretty well. So I'm excited for that.
That's Blue Lake, correct? Is that where they...
That's the one. So, most fans out there will probably recognize it from the 2014 World Showdown with Paul and Ricky.
Yeah, that's very true. I know we also did a Smashbox, I think, that year. I want to say we did like a battle at Blue Lake. If you go on somewhere on way back at our thing, you can take a look, and we did a battle at Blue Lake with a couple players. I don't remember who was in it at this point anymore. I think Felberg was in it. I'd have maybe Double G. I'd have to go back and look at the archives, but we can kind of get a general idea of that event. So, someone asked if I ever thought I'd have to say that babies don't hyzer. No, that's something I never thought I would have to say. That babies do not hyzer, nor do they anhyzer. They're more of a straight flying thing.
Yeah, dead straight, good for 40, 50 feet at least. But
yeah.
Did you catch the clip on Reddit with the dude who had the baby strapped in the front pack and then threw the forehand off the tee, and everyone in the thread was just lambasting him like, "You're going to give your baby whiplash," and freaking out. And I would not do that, especially because I couldn't stop myself from throwing a full power drive. But at some point you have to recognize that the dude is not going to give his baby whiplash. Like, he's only doing that because he thinks it's fun and safe, and the baby was enjoying it, as he mentioned in the comments. But
correct, and if as long as they're old enough, that's not a problem. I think you don't want to do that from like 0 to probably 6 months. After that, I think you're probably pretty safe. I've thrown with kids on my shoulders, when they want to crawl up on you, and you're like, okay, cool. I'm going to throw this 300-foot drive now with a 50-pound kid on my shoulders. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But
totally.
It's, I did see that video of him throwing the forehand, and it's, again, I don't think it's something I would probably do, but I guess you do what you have to sometimes. Maybe I would have chosen a standstill forehand and gone with that way. But I don't know. So what are your takes on the Disc Golf Pro Tour so far? I know you've probably seen a lot of. I mean, if you want to talk about media, you can talk about media, but in general, just the Pro Tour as we've seen it this year.
Yeah. I've been consuming a lot of media lately, all the Disc Golf Pro Tour stuff, all of the message boards to kind of get the reactions out there. And I think everything that everybody is saying is correct. There's people on one side of the aisle who say, hey, I watched it. I had fun. I got what I needed to by watching the live coverage. It's not the best coverage in the world, but it was serviceable. And don't forget, it's free. So, I think that's true. And I think it's also true to say it's not nearly up to the quality that it should be, or at least what was promised. The expectation was set that it was going to have higher quality. They didn't live up to that standard. That's objectively true. And then I really appreciate Jamie Thomas's take, and I'll just echo it here. I think Steve Dodge and the Disc Golf Pro Tour made the mistake in assuming that people watched the event for the event and not for the fact that their favorite players are doing awesome things and they get to be involved in the drama. So, Disc Golf Pro Tour, I wish nothing but success because it only propels our sport forward. So I would like to see people kind of ease up a little bit on the vitriol on the media coverage, but I would also hope that Disc Golf Pro Tour has enough sense to just either step up their game or step back from the media side and keep running awesome events and let the media handle itself for another year or so.
Yeah, I think we are, having had a few talks with Dodge over the past couple of weeks, I think they are on the right track, and I do believe that they're going to get what they need to get done accomplished. I'm not going to say that they're ever, and I don't want to say ever, that this year they're going to get to a Jomez level. I don't believe that's possible. I think Jomez has a machine set up that they are extremely good at, and a graphics package that they are very familiar with. I do think that you're going to see improvements in the post-production, and I think it's going to be a quality product, but it's not going to be, we'll say, if Jomez is right now a 10, I don't think they're getting there. You might see him get to an 8, 8.5, but they're never going to have all the bells and whistles that the Jomez crew has right now. So that's going to take another year or two.
Yeah, and I would even set the bar lower and say, they'll get to a 6. Make the analogy to being a touring professional in disc golf to a regional pro. Paul McBeth is doing what he's doing. He's the Jomez of disc golf. And then all the people armchair quarterbacking saying, hey, I shoot the course record at my local course. I'll go sign up for the Beaver State Fling, and then get whomped by 75 strokes over 4 rounds. That's the reality of it. You put in the time and effort to make your talent known, and Disc Golf Pro Tour hasn't done that yet, which is super meta when you think about an analogy of calling Paul McBeth the Jomez of the sport.
Yeah, that's not far off. Someone asked if Paul was really not at Nick Hyde. No, I think we're seeing a few players skip Nick Hyde in general, just not able to make that swing with Paul being in Florida. I believe he's going to head back home before going over to Tennessee. I believe the next one is in Tennessee and then Jonesboro. So maybe he's not even going to head home. Maybe he'll just go over to I'm sorry, not Tennessee, Tallahassee. The other thing that a lot of people didn't realize is that Paul McBeth will not be at the Beaver State Fling. He is going to be at AmNats this year, the big Discraft sponsored event. And I think that he's going to make his presence for his sponsor there. So we will not see him at, more than likely, because he's not registered. So I just make the assumption we're not going to see him at Beaver State.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, because I was looking to get my revenge on Paul and beat him at the Fling this year. But I think he saw me sign up, and he had to make the right business decision. Discraft said, hey, Dion's got it covered at the Fling, Paul. We need you to make back your $1 million at Am Nationals this year. So humor us on this one.
So they didn't want you back to recreate your distance video out of the toboggan? Isn't that where you filmed it?
I look forward, man. That's old hat. I filmed it, did it. It's time to think about the next big project.
The next big project. Oh yeah, sure. I see that that third account you've created that every once in a while just wants to message on that video on YouTube just to bring it back up. Like, oh wow, this guy's really good. I wonder what he's doing these days.
They should have him on SmashBoxx. He would draw a lot of viewers.
Yeah, that's totally it. All right, Dion. Well, do you have anything you want to? I want to say, do you have anything you want to promote or push or plug? I don't know if you do, but if you do, now's the time to do it.
No, I don't. But yeah, Johnny, I really appreciate you guys having me. I hope to just continue to offer my perspective, and it's been great for me to try to participate in disc golf in some way. And so, my promise to you guys is that I'll actually play well in these next couple big events. And next time you have me on, we can pretend like I'm relevant again as a competitor. But until then, it's just a lot of fun to chat with you guys and try to offer my 2 cents.
I want to see a couple things. I want to see you come out and quote unquote shock the world and take a top 10 at either the Pro Tour or the Beaver State Fling, and people will be like, oh wow, he still has it. And the other thing, I actually threw your name out in the ring, the memorial, or actually not necessarily for the memorial, but around the memorial for doing live commentary for the Pro Tour. When I was helping out with the memorial, they were kind of asking in general, and I was like, you know what? I know, Nate, they're in Bend, and Dion's up that direction. I don't know how far away you particularly are from Bend. It seems like everything's at least 3 hours from Bend, but
Yeah, totally.
yeah, but ultimately, I did throw your name out there as a possibility, because I think it's one of those things that I think you could excel at, just based on who you are and some of your history. And if you come dressed in a shirt and tie, they can't turn you away.
For sure. Well, I appreciate that, Johnny, and I would love to have an opportunity to do more commentary and just kind of get some more experience there. Obviously, I grew up with Nate and Nate Sexton. And for years we had watched the old Clash DVDs and Billy Crump and just go, we can do better than this. So it's actually extremely fulfilling to see Nate become the voice of disc golf, or at least, kind of the well-known commentator that he is. So it turns out we were right. We could do better. Namely, Nate could do better. So if I got a shot at that too, I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah. What was Billy saying? That's like cold butter on a hot roll or something like. I don't know. Billy had like 1,000 Billyisms, and it's one of the things that I believe stuck. That I don't think he came up with it, but he definitely popularized it. Was the am side and the pro side of the basket when someone misses. Like, yep. I definitely missed on the am side, when you don't even give it a chance. But
exactly. But look at how far we've come in the game and media coverage. So it's all fun.
10 years. That's all it's been. Honestly, it's been 10 years since those things are out there. The funny thing was, right before the show, for some reason I saw a link in a post, and I followed it down a rabbit hole for just a few clicks, and I ended up at the old Disc Golf Planet webpage, and I was like, looking at some of the videos from, not the videos, but the links from 2013 through 2015, and I was like, wow, that's right. Oh, that's right. They did some sort of pay-per-view event for USDGC one year, and it was a whole different portal, and this company doesn't exist anymore that they tried to work with, and you've got Livestream, who they used, which was bought out by Vimeo, I think, and just going through the rabbit hole of that. And I saw Double G made a post the other day that linked to an old Planet video where he threw over the lake at USDGC and then did a backhand spring into a flip, which I didn't know he could do, and I'd love to see him try again now. So,
that's those things are so fun, and I always try to catch myself standing in the corner on those things because I was at all of those events. That was when I was most active. Mm-hmm. I came across a YouTube clip of Felberg throwing at the 07 Memorial, and I was caddying for him. I forgot I caddied for him one of the years that he won. I had played my round because I was in such a lower tee time that after I finished, lead card was going off, and he's like, "Hey, Dion, come grab the bag." And I was like, "Cool, let's do it. Let's go around." So
that was 2007. Is that Michigan?
No, that was Memorial.
Oh, Memorial.
Memorial.
I was thinking Worlds.
At Fountain Hills.
So, Fountain Hills, yeah. Well,
right now, I think he won 08 in Kalamazoo.
Yeah, I believe he did. I know I was there. No, 04 maybe. Wait, 4? I've been to so many Worlds that they all honestly run together, and one of them was a combined AM and Pro Worlds, which was one of the most fun events that you can imagine. Just camping out in Michigan, it was a blast. So, all right, Dion, appreciate the time as always. We will hopefully catch up with you in a few weeks after you play some of these events, these Pro Tour and National Tour events, and you're back on the scene and making a name for yourself, and everyone's gonna be begging you to go out on tour again. I can see it happening.
Sounds great, Johnny. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks a lot, Dion. Dion Arlyn, the Whip, as they used to call him. He was such a young guy. He's still relatively young compared to me. I think he's only in his 30s now. He's about the same age as Sexton, but he was just one of those young guns that saw on the course, and now he's a young man with 2 kids, like the rest of us. So welcome to the club, pal. Congratulations on that second child. Dion, I think, would be a phenomenal commentator. He's one of those guys that's very well-spoken, knows the sport inside and out, could be extremely unbiased as far as, commentating and discs and manufacturers and stuff like that. He's very well-spoken and intelligent. I would love to see him get a nod or get a try for that. I'd love to see Terry or pull him in for some post-production commentary as well. I think that would be a lot of fun because he could be a definite asset to anybody. We're not going to do an after show tonight. I will probably throw together a Patreon. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to do 2 Patreons next week. That'll work out even better because I don't have anything set up right now because I was running a little bit late and then Terry was running late. So I'm going to take a couple questions off the board right now. Let's see here. We'll start with, let's see here. Mike Nickel, JVD. Oh, okay. You switching Jonesboro or doing any other things for Disc Golf Pro Tour this year? That's from Mike Nickel. Right now, there's a lot of things up in the air. I have, honest to God, there is no plan for me to do anything at this point. We've been talking off and on with Steve. Terry and I are, working about some things. I'm not going to rule anything out, but as of right now, there are 0 solid plans for that. That's the honest to God question. So, Sundog DG says, Johnny V, how soon you forget DGTV? Yeah. Disc Golf TV. There's so many incarnations. Disc Life did a whole thing way back in the day. That was Brian Sullivan. Obviously, the Clash. Right, I can grab them right there. I've got right down there in front of me. There's a bunch of Vibram DVDs, and I think maybe US DGC from someone. I had a plan. I don't know. Maybe it's almost 10 years ago. I own a website. I think I still own it. Maybe I'll let it go, called discstream.com. And I wanted to create basically, at the time, a streaming disc golf service. This was before YouTube. And so I reached out to Steve Dodge and I said, hey, here's an idea. Can you send me these DVDs? I would love to, have a streaming system and we can work on, having people pay, a couple bucks a month. And then we'll divvy out to all the different people that send these DVDs. And I went as far as ripping a bunch of DVDs, getting them up on a server, working with a couple streaming systems. And this was a long time ago. And then suddenly YouTube hit. And all that kind of just went poof. And I walked away and I was like, yeah, it's not worth it because people started putting things out on YouTube. And I can't say I saw the future in what we would have, but I did see that it wasn't really worth all the effort that I was going to put in. So I have a whole bunch of these old disc golf DVDs that people like Billy Crump and Steve Dodge and a couple other people had sent me, and they just sit around now. I should probably at some point ask if I can burn them off and put them up on YouTube or something along those lines. I've seen Chuck Kennedy do that with some of the world's DVDs. So. Disc Golf Nerd says, how dare you with no after show? I'm going to do the after show now like this. And then again, we'll do an extra better after show next week when Terry can probably join us for a little bit longer. And I'm a little bit more prepared. JVD, the new Joe Mess trailer is nuts. Did you ever see the old one? When you say trailer, I'm assuming you're talking the RV, Darren. I did not see the old one. I've not seen the new one. But I do know that they are riding in style. I think I saw a picture of their editing bay, their editing station. And I mean, I guess I did see the old one in a couple videos of them when they were live streaming. Kind of I don't want to say rundown RV, but they are definitely doing fine in what they are driving in these days. So, what's on the future for Skip Ace? I've been working with my web developer pretty regularly. And I'm hoping that in the next week, and this is short term, in the next week we'll have the email alerts should go out. That system is done. They didn't go out for Waco because we forgot to put the correct time of all things when we have the auto job run. And multiple league picks. That is the next big step for me. And it's what everybody wants. So when you make a pick, hopefully you'll just be able to go, oh, here are all your other leagues that match with a salary cap that is at least this amount or less than this. So you can go check, submit, and it puts all the picks into all of those other leagues. That's going to be huge. That will get a lot of people off my back. And that is the next big thing that I want to do. And it shouldn't be too tough if I understand my developer correctly. Other than that, I've got some future plans for it. I was really excited this week because, for those of you that don't know, there's a gentleman by the name of Aaron Brooker, I believe, who used to run one of the old fantasy disc golf websites. And he used to own the domain Fantasy Disc Golf. And so he asked me, he's like, hey, do you want it for a small fee? And I was like, hey, I would love that domain. I used to have Fantasy DG. I let it expire. I'm not too sad about that, but Fantasy Disc Golf would be awesome. And he's like, cool. Let me get on that for you. And he comes back 2 days later. He's like, "Ugh, sorry, buddy. Sorry I got your hopes up. Turns out I let it expire." And he thinks that Infinite Discs actually grabbed it and own it now. So if you do own it, Infinite Discs, I'd be happy to take it off your hands. So that's the next thing with Skip Ace. Other things I would love to see, weekly head-to-head matchups, almost like a FanDuel, where you can maybe set a limit and have that first page when you log in. Right now it just says you're logged into the dashboard or something. Actually have that a real page where you can see a list of all these people that, hey, I just want to play a 1-week league this particular week, and maybe set up not a money system yet, although that is in the back of my head, but a point system. Give everybody X amount of points and then say, cool, for the year you have 500 points. You want to wager points back and forth, and maybe whoever ends up with the most amount of points at the end of the year, we could do a prize for. I would like to see something like that. But if I remember correctly, because we link to the PDGA page, there's something in their API rules that say that can't be done for gambling. So I don't think I could actually put real money behind that, although that would be fun and a little more lucrative for me, as opposed to just putting all my money into the disc golf, into the Skip Ace site. Let's see here. Let's go through a couple of the other questions. Are you aware of anybody covering the Collegiate Disc Golf Championships this weekend? Nobody officially is covering it. Terry said that he might end up swinging up there as opposed to Jacksonville. He had talked originally about going to Jacksonville, but he says that if somebody else does have that covered, he might go up to Georgia to do the coverage of that. So it is, I would hope so. It's a hard event to cover because of the way that the event is formatted with the different doubles and team and then singles. I think you could do a good summary video. I don't know if live coverage would ever work out very well without quite a few multiple cameras, and there isn't a great way to live score that, so the information would be sparse coming in. It's a great event. It's one of those events, kind of like if you've ever played in a team event. There's a big Wisconsin match play event we've talked about quite a bit. One of the coolest parts about that is, win or lose, hopefully win, everyone goes back to their team headquarters, whatever cabin or house that they're in, and then you're all talking about, oh, well, yeah, I won. This was my score, and everybody's got like this chart where you're writing things down. That's kind of how the collegiates feels to me, where everyone goes out and plays, and then you kind of bring it all in afterwards. There's not a lot of information that's easily accessible due to the format. Jojav, Hav. The Millennium did release a new disc today called The Falcon. About time. It's kind of funny how everybody has, it feels like, some sort of Star Wars disc now. Innova has a Star Destroyer. Obviously, Discraft has all of the Star Wars stamps with the Yodas and things like that. The Force they have, clearly. And now Millennium has the Falcon. So the Millennium Falcon. Very clever. I like it. I think it's a good idea. It's just really, it's funny how all these manufacturers are kind of glomming on to Star Wars in one way or the other. Disc Golf Nerd says, JVD, was Into the Spider-Verse the best Spider-Man movie of all time? Yes or no? I'm going to go yes. It was innovative. It was fun. I forgot I was watching a cartoon. It was a blast. And I think that followed up by, I have a little recency bias, I think, because other than that, the second newest, Homecoming, was really good, and I think that was second. And then you go back to the Tobey Maguire first Spider-Man. I think that's the third best one. We'll see how the new one the one where they go abroad is over to Europe. Far From Home, I think is what it is. I'm excited. I love the Marvel movies, so we'll see. Let's thoughts on the Bucks. I hope you make at least a game, at least one game this year, or plans on a playoff game. I have not made it to a game yet this year. Things have been kind of busy, but I would love to go to a playoff game. I think I could take my son and my daughter. I made a joke for it, but my son not really being much of an athletic kid. He's a brainiac. A little father brag here. He's a 4th grader. He's 9 years old. He just came back with his whatever standardized testing on a scale of like 1,400, which is the top for I think high school kids. In math, he's already at like 800 or 900 when most kids are at like 300 or 400 his age. And for reading, he's in like the 11 or 1200s. So he's already reading at like an 11th grade level. My kid, his future is in his head. It's not in his legs or arms. I know that, but it is fun. He's starting to get a little bit more into sports. And I think this winter where he's been kind of cooped up, he's excited to get outside and just do anything. And whether it's throw the football or throw, I need to get my portable basket out so we can do that because he does enjoy putting with me sometimes, as much as he more so likes to get in the way. Is Smashbox doing live coverage for any non-Disc Golf Pro Tour big tourneys this year? Yes, we are doing the Glass Blown Open. That is on the books. We are starting to talk to them about plans and what we want to do and extra cameras and things like that. I've got a fun idea or two that I'm hoping we can pull off. And I guess the idea is I would like a camera on the island hole at the country club. That's what I'd like. I don't know if it's going to happen, but just there, static, all day long. And if I can, push that out to its own YouTube feed, just a raw feed of the island hole, so people can just watch it all day long if they want. And I don't know if it's going to happen. It's going to require a little bit of manpower, a little bit of data, all that other stuff, but I think it'd be a lot of fun. And then during the regular broadcast, hopefully we'd be able to bring that in and kind of watch that. That's what I want. That's one of the little things that I want to do. And I think that would be definitely a lot of fun. So we are doing that, and we're hoping to do Worlds. There's been nothing official. I don't know of anybody else that would do it. So I think we've got a little in there with the PDGA. But ultimately, we need to talk to Nate Heinold and Steve Hill about that. But I think we're pretty well locked in for Worlds. We just need to kind of work some things out. Any other questions here? The Spider-Man ride is better than most of the movies. I agree. At Universal, my son and I were fortunate enough to get that. We missed out on one other ride because we decided to do that one instead. It was the last thing we did, literally the last thing we did before we left Universal on about 2 years ago. Ryan Pilcher says his friend said he bought that URL because he didn't like Skip Ace, so he would probably give it to you. But it's also going to expire at some point. So yeah. So Ryan, if your friend, I don't know if you're talking about Fantasy DG or Fantasy Disc Golf. If he is, have him reach out to me because I would love that domain, either domain back, and it doesn't matter to me too much, honestly. Skip Ace is fine and it's branded and all that other stuff. But we're going through some of the questions here on the board. So does DD hold all the coverage for cards at GBO? I don't know what that question means, Maker's Telemark. I believe Jomez is covering a few cards. I think the PDGA is trying to bring in more people. I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know exactly what Jomez is covering. If it's MPO1 and FPO1, or if they're also doing FPO or MPO2 or FPO2 as well, or MPO3 as well. I don't know. I know Jomez is going to have a big presence at GBO, but I don't know much of the details as far as that goes. Please don't cut from the lead card to watch the 13th card throw the island like some other tournament did. No. If anything, we would use that for maybe the top 3 or 4 cards, or we'd use it during downtime. That would kind of be it. Or depending on the situation I have, if I have an assistant like Gary with me, he could probably cut together some of those things, and then we would use that as filler. Like hey, let's watch the 14th card throw while these guys walk up the fairway. Splash, splash, island, putt in. Something along those lines. The new Hagrid ride at Universal opens soon, and it looks insane. Yeah. The Harry Potter rides were pretty awesome at Universal. I liked the Escape from Gringotts better than the broom ride, the one around Hogwarts, personally. This is nerd talk with John and Darren, apparently. But I did like Escape from Gringotts a little bit better. It was also the one we did first. But they were both a lot of fun. The Transformers ride was one of my favorites. That thing, I really felt like I was whipping things around. Any new podcasts? We're talking about general podcasts, not necessarily disc golf podcasts here. The new podcast To Live and Die in LA is so good. Forbidden Journey. Oh, that's the Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey one. Okay. I don't really have any. I don't think I have any new podcasts I've put in my feed lately. I'm just looking. Ice Cream Social, or Hey Scoops was the last one I think I really put in there. And that was because we helped do some of the streaming on that one. Other than that, the other nerdy ones, Sysadmin Today, all about system admins because I'm an IT person. So, yeah. So ultimately, I don't really have too much. Alexis asks, wait, who's we? I don't know if I know what that's in reference to as far as who's we. So when I usually say we, I usually mean Smashbox, me and Terry. Maybe that's it. So scrolling back up through the board, if there's anything I missed. Oh, Ryan Pilcher says it's fantasydg.com. Yeah, so he took he took my old domain. That was the very first Skip fantasy disc golf website. So Darren LeMay says a Skip Ace app would be ideal. Yeah, I would love a Skip Ace app. I don't see that happening anytime soon. The system works pretty well with mobile, but I do agree it would be really nice to have its own app. It's just a matter of I'm too busy / too lazy to learn how to program. And then you've obviously got, I think we talked about this, iOS and Android that you need to take care of. And it's a pain. It really is. I would love to have it though. And maybe if the website starts not being a pure money drain, then we could do that. And by we mean I, because it's the Skip Ace is really just me. I was thinking this the other day, and I'm not here to pat myself or Terry on the back at all, but it's amazing some of the things that are being that you'd think that we're such a small community. Like the fact that we're, Terry and I are doing live, Terry's doing post-production, I'm doing other podcasts, and Skip Ace. There's not a lot of other things out there. I mean, it's awesome that UDisc is doing live scoring and they're working with the PDGA. I think there's a lot of, and now we've got Disc Golf Strong doing a lot of physical fitness stuff, but I think there's a lot of potential out there for other avenues. So, for things for disc golf. So we'll see. And there's only so much that people can, that people who are, not say, I don't use the word driven, can do, because I have other ideas. I just have no cycles. That's kind of it. I'm already falling behind in the unsanctioned podcast. I need to get to a couple interviews lined up. I have a couple people that said they're willing. It's just a matter of finding time with the pros, which is one reason why it's been a little bit thing. So I'm going to have to get a hold of Disc Golf Nerd, and we're going to get one from him for sure. But trying to track them down and get them to sit on a Wednesday or a Monday night is always a pain. So, have I tried any ads on Skip Ace? Not yet. We are working with Infinite Discs to do prizes. So I kind of push that, and I want to get a small ad on there for them, because they're giving away $30 in prizes every week, which I need to send the email out tomorrow about Throw Down the Mountains results. So Alexis says, come to Waco next year. Yeah, I would love to. I haven't been to Waco. I was in Austin and I saw signs to go to Waco, but I haven't actually been to Waco. I think that could be a lot of fun. It's not necessarily on my bucket list of events, although the city itself looks pretty cool. I did say that Beaver State Fling was on my bucket list. And I want to get there this year. That's a lot of going to depend on what Terry's plans are, if he's going to be involved in Beaver State Fling or not. If he is, odds are I will go. If he's not, then I probably will put it off another year, because if I go, I want to be useful, and it's always nice to travel with Terry because obviously we get along so well. Come to Masters Cup. Oh, Big Putt Bill, come out to Cali. That would be fun, but I'd probably have to play Pro Masters. I don't think Am Masters is the same weekend. Or just hang out. Yeah, we can work something out. Thanks, Big Putt Bill. That $1.99 will go right to my Masters Cup fund. The PDJ should try to hold a celebrity pro-am tournament. I think we're like 10 years away from that. Hopefully. I'm hoping we're 10 years away, because I think in order to get celebrities there, you need to have a decent fundraiser background. And obviously it's a chicken and egg scenario to get the pros, to get these celebrities there. You need funding, and then once your celebrities are there, you might be able to get more funding, more donations, and all that other stuff. I thought we were on a really good track with St. Jude, starting that up, and I feel like that lost a lot of momentum, and part of it was based on where it was located. It was just ridiculously expensive for most people to get out there and stay for a weekend out in that particular area of California, and so I think that was part of it. If something like that were headed back up, maybe somewhere not in California, or at least not in a very expensive part of California, maybe somewhere more in the Midwest or down south. I think those are both really good options, and it would be nice to kind of pick a really good charity and roll with one of them and try to build up a good relationship with them. And so I think St. Jude is great, and I would love to continue with that. Is that the right charity for disc golf? I don't know. St. Jude's pretty big. Could we make a bigger impact with a smaller charity? Possibly. I don't know all the logistics. Like I said, anytime you get, the whole St. Jude Kids in Hospitals thing, that hits pretty close to home here for me. So, disc golf manufacturer should sponsor washed up baseball stars for publicity. I've heard this on a couple, or on a different podcast. I think it was the Upshot, where they were talking about seeing, what athletes would they like to see pick up disc golf. And I have a hard time believing that you give an athlete from another sport, we'll just say Giannis from the Bucks, who's a gifted athlete, give him a disc, and that even within a year he's going to be worth anything, even with training and direction. I don't know. Like, yes, these guys are freak athletes, but so is Simon. Honestly, so is Paul. And it's a different thing. So to say that a lot of their skills would move over to disc golf, I think is I think it's doing a little discredit to some of our pros. Not much. I mean, just a little bit. And I think that I don't necessarily think the skills translate. Even the hand-eye coordination and the footwork and stuff like that. I believe that maybe the closest would be a baseball player with their swing versus kind of a disc golf, the way your hips and shoulders turn and kind of propel. Other than that, I don't know. I'm not buying it. I'm really not buying it. And honestly, I think we're starting to get to the limits of what a body can do with the current disc specifications that we have. I don't think you're going to see people regularly throw 700 feet on a disc golf course. I think it can be. Clearly, we know people could throw that far, but I just think we're starting to hit those physical limits. You know, a person can only throw a baseball so hard. You know, we're not going to see. I don't think you're going to see baseball players regularly throw 110 miles an hour. You know, in 10 or 15 years, do we see one person? Maybe. I mean, what? Chapman right now are topping out like, what, 103, 104? Something along those lines. I just, I don't know. It's kind of like, I think you hit a physical limit at some point, and unless we change the disc specifications to something like an Aerobie, Roby, however you want to pronounce it, I don't know if we're going to see discs fly that much further. So, other than Calvin, who's 7 feet tall and throws 800 feet or 700 feet, whatever that is. So he's clearly, yes, a tennis player. You're right. A tennis player, backhand, forehand, that could be pretty deadly. As far as the way they can generate momentum. You're right. I did not think of that. So a tennis player could as well probably do that. And you're right. Elite athletes. What makes an elite athlete though? Like, because you sit and concentrate at a sport, that's what makes you an elite athlete, right? I mean, we're not born. Very few people are born elite athletes. People are born and their body types fit specific sports. I mean, look at LeBron. He could be a tight end. He could probably play baseball, you know, given the right thing, but he's an elite athlete in basketball. I mean, would you consider Eagle an elite athlete? I would. Because to be elite, you need to practice and you need to do that. And to say that, you know, we're not seeing elite athletes, I think it's kind of silly. So athletes are only elite because they bust their ass and try and they practice. So Paul McBeth is an elite athlete. Simon Lizotte, Eagle McMahon, they're, you know, Ricky Wysocki, they're all elite athletes. I think disc golf is a little unique in that you don't need to be an elite athlete in order to make it to the upper echelon of players. We've seen, I wouldn't consider some of our players, I'm not going to name names because that's just bad. I wouldn't consider some of the players that we see maybe up near the top 10, top 15. Some of them you look at, you go, like, that guy's not an elite athlete. He's good at disc golf. But we do have elite athletes in our sport. So people are saying that Wiggins is the limit. Wiggins, as far as distance, Wiggins threw into a giant wind. And that could have been him. That could have been Simon. That could have been anybody with just the right angle on the right thing. I'm glad that distance record is untouchable at this point, because there's no point. I would love to see an indoor distance record. Show me an indoor distance record, and then I will be way more interested, because that would be pure form and distance, and all that's 100% the athlete. The hardest part is finding an indoor facility that could support that. You know, finding something that's, you know, short of like a giant airport hangar of some sort. That's the most difficult part. But throwing with 70-mile-an-hour winds at your back, that's a lot of that is kind of just luck. I mean, clearly they can crush all the time, but Simon's crush versus Wiggins' crush versus Eagles' crush, one of them got lucky and threw it and hit the exact right wind at the exact right time. But ultimately, they're all monster throwers. Yeah, someone says Jamie Mosier is an elite athlete. I wasn't going to mention him. I didn't think of him, honestly, but that's a Yeah, that's an example. Jamie Mosier's a great disc golfer, but no one would look at him and go, that guy's an athlete right there. It's sorry, Jamie, but that's true. Wiggins threw further. Wiggins holds the distance world championship. Porch says, Wiggins and Simon would both be happy to go throw off, just show him a building, and the wind was 38. The wind was 38 miles an hour. I thought it was more than that at the time when he threw. I don't think it was 70 like I jokingly said, but I thought it was more than that. I thought it was around 45 or 50. So, but I could be totally wrong there. But either way, I think that was a little bit more, again, a little bit more luck over the other competitors as opposed to other things. So, but take that for what it is. I mean, when you see Simon break the record one day and then Wiggins break it when it's a little bit more windy, you're talking about, you're splitting hairs at this point. 38 can be gnarly, especially in that desert. Like 40-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, they're in general, it's not crazy, but it can be pretty brisk, to say the least. Okay, folks, I'm probably going to wrap this up. It is 20 after 11 here, and I think that I've gone through everything. We'll do a Patreon giveaway. We'll do 2 Patreon giveaways next week. We're for sure going to do I think what Terry had, the Discraft Kong. We'll do one of those, and we'll also do a disc member box. I got the disc member box in the mail today, so I'm excited. It's a bigger box. I don't know if they're picking different boxes now or if they have more stuff in this particular one, but if you want to be eligible for that, once again, you can always go out to patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV, and you can be eligible to win our weekly giveaway. Sometimes it's a disc, sometimes it's the disc member box, which is a $50 value. In the past, we've given away a pair of Keens. I'm waiting on literally, I think, 2 more addresses for some of our $10 clothing patrons. And once I get those 2 addresses, I'm going to send the stuff to Miles so he can print off the shirts and ship them out. Other than that, that's pretty much about it. We'll get that going. And if they don't give me those addresses in the next week or so, or next maybe 5 days, they're just going to get extra larges, regardless of what size they are. So, if they don't like it, that's on their fault. I've sent them multiple emails, but I'll send them a couple more before I do that. So again, for Dion Arlyn, thanks for joining the show as always. For Terry Miller, my favorite guest. For myself, Johnny V. This was Smashbox TV's podcast, episode 240, where we talked about Throw Down the Mountain and Paul being ridiculous and the guy's just too good. And at some point, it's whatever. He's phenomenal, and like I said, he's got the bat phone. I'm going to give him the bat phone so he can call in whenever he wants, whenever he gets bored at night, because he's a night owl. My understanding is so. Again, for all the guests and all the Smashies out there, thanks to everyone who did super chats and all of our Patreon supporters. I'm signing off for the night, so I hope everybody have a better tomorrow.